There's a phenomenon you've probably witnessed but maybe never put into words. A man, often in his late 40s or 50s, walks into a room. He doesn't crack jokes. He doesn't rush to introduce himself. He doesn't need to raise his voice. Yet something happens, people notice. Conversations shift slightly, glances are exchanged, and suddenly, without effort, this man commands the space. What's at work here isn't luck or coincidence. It's not even just about money, status, or physical looks. Plenty of men have those and still fail to create the same effect. The real reason is harder to define but easy to feel. A quiet gravity born from experience. Younger men often chase attention like moths to a flame. They speak quickly, laugh loudly, and pepper every moment with words, trying to fill silence before it grows uncomfortable. They confuse noise with power. But older men, those who've lived through failures, triumphs, and the long grind of time, understand something deeper. Silence, when owned, speaks louder than any line rehearsed in front of a mirror. Psychologists call this non-reactivity. It's the ability to remain grounded when others rush, to hold steady when others fidget. Studies on attraction repeatedly show that women respond not to the sheer quantity of attention a man gives, but to the quality. That quality is measured in presence, the sense that you are anchored in the moment and not easily swayed by outside forces. Think about the last time you were in a meeting or social gathering. There's always that one younger guy who nervously checks his phone every few seconds, nods at everything said, and laughs at jokes that aren't funny just to stay in the circle. Compare him to the man who sits calmly, listens without hurry, waits before he speaks, and when he does, every word lands heavier. One is forgettable background noise. The other is remembered long after he's left the room. Presence is rare in today's world, and that rarity makes it magnetic. We live in an era of endless distraction. Notifications, buzzing, screens flashing, everyone competing for a slice of attention. A man who is fully here, not half scattered, not seeking validation, feels like a breath of fresh air. For a woman, that calmness doesn't just feel attractive, it feels safe. It creates both intrigue and comfort at the same time, a paradox that intensifies desire. And here's the irony: presence can't be faked. You can memorize clever one-liners, wear expensive clothes, or drive a flashy car, but if your energy is jittery and unfocused, she senses it immediately. On the other hand, when you sit still, breathe evenly, and carry yourself as though nothing can shake you, she feels it in her body before she even processes it in her mind. An older man embodies this naturally. Years of experience teach him patience. He's no longer desperate to impress because he's learned that desperation repels. He knows that attention given too freely loses its value. So instead, he offers presence like a rare gift. Think of the difference between a firework and a fireplace. A firework explodes with noise and color, but it fades almost instantly. That's the end. Attraction thrives on contrast. Yet this is the very element most younger men completely miss. They think winning her attention means endless compliments, constant chatter, and a steady stream of validation. They believe if they can just keep entertaining, she'll stay interested. But the truth is the opposite. Too much predictability kills desire. Older men understand that mystery is more powerful than certainty. They know that giving everything at once, praise, attention, affection, doesn't create connection. It creates boredom. Desire lives in the space between what is given and what is withheld. That space is where contrast works its magic. Imagine this. A younger guy hears a woman tease him, and immediately he responds with flattery, eager laughter, or a clumsy attempt to prove he can keep up. His reaction is predictable, and because it's predictable, it's forgettable. Now picture an older man in the same moment. She throws a playful jab his way. Instead of rushing to reassure her or fire back nervously, he pauses. A slow grin forms. He tilts his head slightly, eyes steady, and finally replies with something short, sharp, maybe even challenging. "That's the best you've got?" That one line lands differently. Why? Because it breaks the expected pattern. It's not desperate, not overdone, not needy. It's deliberate. The tease works not because of the words themselves, but because of the contrast between her expectation and his calm, restrained response. Psychologists call this the intermittent reinforcement effect. It's the same principle that keeps people hooked on slot machines or social media notifications. Rewards given randomly, not constantly, create the strongest attachment. When attention is predictable, it loses its value. When it's given sparingly and unpredictably, it becomes addictive. Older men flirt like musicians, not like salesmen. They understand rhythm. A song doesn't keep you hooked because it blasts constant sound. It hooks you because of the pauses, the beats, the tension between noise and silence. Flirting works the same way. It's not about flooding her with energy. It's about knowing when to give and when to hold back. Contrast also shows up in tone and demeanor. Younger men often try to match a woman's energy blow for blow. If she's excitable, they become excitable. If she's loud, they get louder. They mirror without thinking. An older man does the opposite. If she's buzzing with high energy, he stays calm. If she teases, he responds with measured wit. If she tries to push, he leans back. By creating this contrast, he positions himself as the frame she adjusts to, not the other way around. And here's the deeper layer. Contrast only works if you're willing to risk her disapproval. Younger men fear rejection so much that they overcompensate with constant approval. They hand over validation like cheap candy, terrified that withholding even a little might push her away. But attraction doesn't work like that. It isn't lost when you hold back. It's ignited. The man who can let silence hang, who can smirk instead of instantly reassuring, shows that he's comfortable even if she doesn't get it. That comfort in the face of risk is exactly what makes him magnetic. Women don't consciously think, he withheld validation. I'm hooked now. They feel the tension, the unpredictability, and their mind keeps circling back to him. Think of it this way. Cheap fast food is available everywhere. Predictable, instantly satisfying but forgettable. A fine wine, on the other hand, is rare, complex, and makes you pause to appreciate it. The first fills you up but leaves no memory. The second creates an experience you remember long after. That's the difference between the younger man who gives too much and the older man who uses contrast to spark desire. So the second secret is this. Don't hand everything over at once. Time is a weapon. Most men don't realize it, but the way you handle tempo, the speed of your words, the rhythm of your actions, shapes how people experience you. Younger men usually rush. They talk fast, they respond instantly, they move like they're afraid of being left behind. But older men? They know the opposite truth. Slowing down takes control. Think about the last time you watched a nervous intern present in a meeting. He spills words quickly, barely pausing to breathe, terrified that silence will make him look weak. Now think about a seasoned CEO. He lets silence stretch, chooses words carefully, and speaks at a measured pace. Who commands more authority? Who do you remember? The same psychology applies to flirting. When a woman meets a younger man, she often feels like she has to manage his energy. He's bouncing from topic to topic, cracking jokes, interrupting, or nervously filling gaps. It can feel chaotic. When she meets an older man who slows the tempo, the effect is magnetic. His calm rhythm forces her to adjust. Without realizing it, she begins to match his pace. This is backed by communication research. Studies show that slower speech and deliberate pauses signal confidence and higher status. Speed, on the other hand, often communicates insecurity. When you rush, you reveal a fear of losing attention. When you slow down, you show you're not afraid of space. You dictate the rhythm of the interaction, and she unconsciously tunes into your frame. Picture this scenario. She's excited, words spilling out quickly, testing you with high energy. The younger guy would mirror her. He'd jump in, talk over her, laugh loudly, trying to match her spark. But the older man does something different. He leans back, he waits. He locks eyes and responds in calm, deliberate sentences. Suddenly, without realizing it, she slows down too. She leans into his energy, not the other way around. That's not just flirting. That's leadership. Women don't consciously say, he's speaking slower, so I find him attractive. What they feel is presence. They feel like they've stepped into his world, his tempo, his rhythm. It's the difference between being tossed around by a storm and standing beside a mountain. One is chaotic, the other is grounding. Slowing down also creates anticipation. Imagine you're about to deliver a witty remark. Instead of blurting it out instantly, you pause. You let a small grin form. You let the silence stretch a beat too long. Then you say it, calm, controlled. That pause is what makes the moment hit. Without it, the line is forgettable. With it, the line becomes unforgettable. The deeper truth is this. Women associate speed with neediness. A man who can't stop talking, can't stop moving, can't sit still without checking his phone signals insecurity. He's showing, even if he doesn't mean to, that he's afraid of being forgotten. The man who slows down communicates the opposite. I have nothing to prove. I'm not chasing you. If you want more, you'll lean in. Think of yourself as the fireplace again. A firework explodes quickly and is gone. A fireplace burns slow, steady, and irresistible. The more time passes, the stronger its pull. That's what slowing down does. It turns fleeting moments into lasting impressions. So the third secret is this. Own the tempo. Don't match her speed. Don't rush to fill silence. Don't let nervous energy control you. Instead, slow down, breathe, and set the rhythm. When you do, she will unconsciously follow your lead. In a world addicted to instant responses and fast stimulation, the man who bends time around him stands out like a force of nature. And that's why women lean toward older men who carry time differently. One of the most common mistakes younger men make in flirting is overgiving. They pour out compliments like water from a leaking faucet. You're so beautiful. That's hilarious. You're amazing. At first, it seems flattering. But within minutes it becomes predictable, even cheap. What was meant to spark attraction ends up smothering it. Older men know a different truth. Attraction doesn't grow from constant approval. It grows from tension. And tension comes from holding back just enough to keep her guessing. This doesn't mean being cruel or arrogant. It means understanding that validation has value, and value only exists when something is scarce. If you hand it out freely, it loses all meaning. If you give it sparingly, at deliberate moments, it becomes powerful. Imagine this scenario. She throws a playful jab, expecting you to laugh and instantly compliment her wit. That's what most men do, jump at the chance to please. Instead, you pause. You tilt your head slightly, let a smirk spread across your face and say calmly, "That's the best you've got?" Suddenly the dynamic shifts. She has to work a little harder. She leans in, eager to earn your recognition. That's the essence of withholding validation. It flips the script. Instead of you chasing her approval, she begins chasing yours. And this shift is intoxicating because it's rare. Most men are terrified of rejection, so they compensate by over-approving, hoping she'll stay interested. But attraction doesn't vanish when you withhold. On the contrary, it intensifies. Psychology explains this through the principle of scarcity. Humans value what is limited and rare more than what is abundant. Compliments lose impact when given too often. But when they're withheld, when she can't fully predict when or if she'll get one, the anticipation makes them feel 10 times more rewarding. Think of it like currency. If every country printed unlimited money, cash would be worthless. Its value comes from limitation. Validation works the same way. If every word out of your mouth is praise, your approval is cheap. But if you hold it back, making her earn it, your words suddenly carry weight. Another way older men apply this is through selective reactions. Younger men laugh at every joke, nod at every word, and smile constantly. But older men respond only when they genuinely feel moved. Sometimes they simply hold eye contact, letting silence carry the weight. Sometimes they offer a short, dry remark that both acknowledges and challenges her. That unpredictability keeps her engaged. Consider this. She puts effort into her outfit, her humor, her energy. Most men flood her with compliments within seconds. But the older man waits. He notices, but he doesn't announce it right away. Maybe he teases her lightly instead of praising. Then, when the moment feels right, perhaps later in the night, he drops one carefully chosen line. "You actually pull that off better than I expected." Because it's rare, it lands with impact. Here's the key. Withholding validation isn't about manipulation. It's about self-respect. A man who values himself doesn't hand out his energy cheaply. He knows his focus is a gift, not a free sample. Women feel this difference instantly. It separates the man who needs approval from the man who doesn't. Think about fast food versus a fine meal. Fast food is everywhere, predictable and quickly consumed, but quickly forgotten. A rare, well-prepared dish is savored slowly and remembered long after. That's the difference between cheap validation and carefully withheld recognition. So the fourth secret is this: don't overgive. Hold back. Let her work for your approval. Make it something she earns, not something you hand out. When you do, she won't just smile at your compliments. She'll crave them. In a world where most men give away validation instantly, silence is one of the most underused tools in attraction. Most men fear it. They scramble to fill every gap in conversation, terrified that if things go quiet, the woman will lose interest. They mistake constant noise for connection. But older men, those who've lived long enough to understand human psychology, know a simple truth. Silence, when controlled, is power. Think of how most younger guys handle a date. The moment a pause appears, they panic. They crack a joke, ask a random question, or ramble about themselves. They think they're keeping the energy alive, but what they're really showing is insecurity. They reveal that they can't sit still with tension. Now picture the opposite. A woman asks a teasing or provocative question. Instead of rushing to respond, the older man pauses. He holds her gaze, lets the air stretch longer than expected, then finally delivers his response with calm control. That pause unsettles her, but not in a bad way. It draws her in. Suddenly, she's not just listening to his words. She's feeling his presence. Psychologists describe this as non-reactivity. It's a sign of confidence and high status. When you're unbothered by silence, you're signaling that you don't need to prove yourself. You don't fear her judgment. You're not performing to win her approval. And that paradoxically makes her lean closer. Controlled silence works on a deeper, subconscious level. In communication studies, pauses are shown to increase the perceived weight of a message. A sentence delivered after a deliberate pause feels more significant than one blurted out instantly. Silence creates suspense. It forces the listener to pay attention. For women, the effect is even more magnetic. Most men they meet are chatterboxes, always selling themselves, always trying to impress. The man who can sit in silence without flinching stands out. He feels like a rock in the middle of a storm. His presence communicates, I'm not in a rush. I don't need to chase. If you want more, you'll have to lean in. Imagine two scenarios at dinner. In one, the man nervously talks through the entire meal, desperate to avoid any dead air. In the other, the man speaks less but with weight. He asks a question, listens fully, then lets silence breathe before replying. Which man feels more powerful? Which one leaves her thinking about him afterward? Always the second. The secret here is to understand that silence isn't emptiness. It's communication. It tells her, without words, that you're grounded, that you're comfortable enough to let the moment unfold without forcing it. And women crave that, because it's rare. Of course, controlled silence only works if it's paired with presence. If you're sitting quietly but fidgeting, checking your phone or looking away, the silence feels awkward. But if you're calm, steady, and locked in, silence becomes dominance, turns into a gravitational pull she can't ignore. Think about history's great leaders and speakers. From presidents to philosophers, the most commanding figures didn't rush their words. They paused. They let silence amplify their message. That same principle applies to flirting. When you let silence do the heavy lifting, you communicate power without saying a thing. So the fifth secret is this: own the silence. Don't rush to fill it. Don't panic when it appears. Sit in it, hold it, let it work for you. Because in that silence, she feels the weight of your presence more than she would from a dozen clever lines. Most men fear the quiet. The rare man who controls it becomes unforgettable. Attraction fades fastest when things become predictable. Most men don't realize this. They think safety and stability are enough to spark desire. Safety builds trust, yes, but trust alone doesn't create excitement. A woman can trust you like she trusts her accountant and feel nothing. Desire comes from a different place, comes from contrast between comfort and uncertainty. This is where older men hold a unique advantage. They understand that too much routine suffocates attraction, but they also know that unpredictability doesn't mean chaos. It means breaking patterns in ways that are playful, confident, and deliberate. Picture this. She expects you to compliment her outfit. That's what every other guy does. Instead, you pause, glance at her with a half smile and say, "That dress looks dangerous." You don't explain it. You don't overdo it. You leave it hanging in the air. The ambiguity makes her lean in, curious, intrigued. Or maybe she teases you, expecting you to defend yourself. Instead of reacting, you laugh, lean back, and say calmly, "You'll have to try harder than that." Suddenly, the script flips. She's no longer leading the game, you are. That unpredictability triggers a rush of dopamine in her brain, the same system activated by surprise rewards. Evolutionary psychologists have proven that unpredictability creates stronger emotional bonding than constant, predictable behavior. But unpredictability alone isn't enough. It must be anchored in stoic depth. This is what truly separates older men from younger ones. A young man can throw out witty lines and unpredictable remarks, but if there's no weight beneath them, it feels like a performance. A man with depth, however, mixes playful unpredictability with moments of stillness that cut deeper than words. Imagine this. She's laughing, teasing, playful. Then in the middle of it, you shift. You look at her, not with need, not with lust, but with a steady, calm presence, and ask, "When was the last time you felt truly free?" You don't rush to explain. You don't force her to answer. You let the silence carry the weight of the question. That moment will haunt her, because suddenly she realizes she's not dealing with just another man. She's facing someone who can challenge her at the level of her soul. This balance, light teasing mixed with stoic depth, is rare. Most men live at one extreme. They're either too shallow, all jokes and surface-level banter, or they're too heavy, unloading deep questions without any sense of play. The older man knows how to weave both. He flirts with unpredictability, making her heart race, then grounds her with depth, making her feel seen. That duality is intoxicating. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. A man who has lived, who has scars, who has endured, carries storms and silence within him." That's what younger women feel but can't always explain. It's not just charm. It's not just wit. It's the sense that this man has lived through fire and come out calmer, stronger, and harder to shake. So the sixth secret is really a combination. Be unpredictable enough to spark excitement, but deep enough to leave a lasting mark. Don't be the firework, flashy and gone in seconds. Don't be the monk, serious and dull. Be the fire that crackles unexpectedly, sometimes warm, sometimes fierce, but always steady at the core. Because in the end, attraction doesn't last on tricks alone. It lasts on the feeling that she's dealing with someone different, someone who can surprise her and ground her at the same time. That's the man she won't forget.